A future Hall of Famer who learned about greatness at an early age.
If you want to make it to the next level and be a special player, you got to do the special things, and that's putting in the extra work.
Allen with Iverson on him, throws one up, and oh! Connecticut wins the Big East Championship.
Quickly making his mark in the NBA.
Here's Ray Allen.
The way he carries himself on and off the court, he was a real true leader.
Going deep for the win.
He is a champion, and his name is in the record books.
That moment will be talked about in correlation to my career forever.
Here's Allen with a deep three. Yes!
And he's not done yet.
Allen for three. Ray Allen to the rescue again.
I felt this sense of great respect and want coming from not only the organization, but the players. And, it's great to feel wanted.
We brought Ray here to win, and we hope that he ends his career here.
Inside the Heat, Ray Allen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Heat. I'm Eric Reed. When Ray Allen joined the Heat in the summer of 2012, he arrived in Miami with an already well-established 16-year NBA career. The greatest three-point shooter in NBA history spent those years with 3 different franchises, Milwaukee, Seattle, and Boston. But moving from city to city, nothing new to Allen. Born into a military family, Ray spent his childhood moving from one Air Force base to another, including a stop in England. But by the age of 10, he was back in the U.S., where he began to play organized basketball. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with Ray to discuss his life's journey to the NBA. But first, we would go back to where it all began. Ray, you grew up in Merced, California, and spent so much time at Castle Air Force Base. Your dad was in the military. Talk a little bit about the role model he was and what you learned from that.
Well, he was that guy that I was afraid of. We had an accountability about us because we knew that our actions were tied to, his job. Most of the kids in the neighborhood feared that. We had great respect for what our dads and moms did because they were soldiers.
What role did your mom play in your upbringing?
She was the front line of defense, I should say. My mom was there every day. She disciplined us most of the time on a daily basis, and my dad was the reinforcement. My mom and dad were very heavily involved.
Ray was very involved himself. Aside from basketball, Allen played every youth sport from baseball to football to soccer. After leading his basketball team to a state championship as a senior at Hillcrest High School, he decided to seriously pursue the sport. Recruited by dozens of schools across the country, one stood out.
When I went to Connecticut, Coach Calhoun took great care of me, didn't let me out of his eyesight. The team, the guys that were there were brothers, and the one thing that really stood out was that every guy on the roster was from somewhere all over America. You had somebody from Seattle, somebody from L.A., somebody from Arizona, from Florida, from Louisiana. I felt at home, like everybody was, coming for a common goal.
It's a dream for every Big East player to play at Madison Square Garden in that conference tournament. Any special memories from your Big East tournaments at Madison Square Garden?
You drive up on the bus and you see your name in lights. That's something special. That's something that every kid dreams of. And we definitely took full advantage of it.
Allen with Iverson on him, throws one up, and oh! Connecticut wins the Big East Championship.
What were the basketball lessons and life lessons that you got from playing for Coach Calhoun?
Many, and a lot of them that I hold close to me till this day. One day I was coming off the floor. I had a pretty good practice, and Coach walked up to me. He said, "Did you make 100% of your shots today?" He said, "If you want to be special, when these guys leave the floor, you got to make sure that you stay and get a little extra work. Some of these guys don't want to be special. They're here, they made it because they were good where they were in college, but if you want to make it to the next level and be a special player, you got to do the special things, and that's put in the extra work."
We may have just uncovered something really special and important when your work ethic, that extra shooting regimen, when that all began. Was it at the University of Connecticut after that conversation?
Oh, yeah. That was the moment. Then I had Coach Hobbs. He said, if you want to play this game at a high level and be good, you got to make sure you shoot a consistent shot every night. God hasn't blessed me with the ability to shoot, just I think the ability to work at it every day, because every day it's a grind.
His hard work paid off. An All-American at UConn, Allen garnered USA Basketball's Male Athlete of the Year and the Big East Player of the Year.
Oh, what a pass from Allen. I tell you, Ray Allen has really stepped it up tonight. He wants to show the reasons he was voted the Player of the Year by the coaches.
But after his junior season, a tough decision awaited him. Talk about the decision to leave UConn after 3 years for the NBA draft.
It was hard. One of the greatest signs of my success was being able to leave after 3 years. It's also probably one of my weakest moments because I wish I could have stayed 4 years. I love being a student athlete, love going to class, loved the people that were in it, part of it with me. Those moments, I tell all kids, enjoy what you do in college because, they'll be the best moments of your life. I remember my press conference, I cried, but, it was time for me to move on.
Welcome back to Inside the Heat. After 3 years at the University of Connecticut, Ray Allen had already become UConn's first two-time All-American, their third all-time leading scorer, and he set their single-season record with 115 trays. Now, in his final season there, he was named Big East Player of the Year, and his Huskies won the Big East tournament. With those accolades behind him, Ray decided to become an early entry candidate for the 1996 NBA Draft. And on June 26 in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Ray Allen's NBA career began.
With the 5th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Ray Allen from the University of Connecticut.
In a draft class that included Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, and Steve Nash, Allen never made it to the Timberwolves. He was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Stephon Marbury. Talk about the thrill of draft night and being traded on draft night. That must have been a crazy night.
That whole night I wasn't happy because I didn't really know how it worked. So when the cameras came over my table, I was like, this is not happening. I'm not going to Minnesota. Then I put my hat on, and then they pulled me down stage, and they said there's been a trade. And I was like, I got traded already? That was the start of it for me, and we worked it out.
Now you are known as one of the greatest shooters, maybe the best outside shooter in the history of the NBA. When did the development of that shot begin?
I never really set out to be a great shooter. I remember when I first got drafted, I had to figure out how I was going to apply what I could do to the Milwaukee Bucks system at the time, and I was a slasher shooter. And then after a while, I must have got my shot blocked by every shot blocker in the NBA. Those guys just kind of made me stay on the perimeter a little bit more. The court is so spaced, use your three-pointer as a weapon, but then get into the paint.
5 to shoot, forces a tough shot, hit it! Oh, he faded away! Ray Allen in your face!
In 1998, you got a part in a Spike Lee movie starring Denzel Washington, He Got Game. How did that whole thing come about?
We were playing in the Garden at the end of the year, and Spike was sitting on the sideline, and he said that he had a part that he wanted me to audition for. And then one day, I came in and I read with Denzel Washington. He said, hey, Denzel liked you, and he thinks that you really fit to play a son, so if you want the part, it's yours. I was like, let's do it, because I didn't want to be that guy that regretted not doing it and watching the movie 10, 20 years later and saying, hey, that was supposed to be me in that movie. Allen's most successful season with the Bucks was during the 2000-2001 season when he won the three-point shooting contest during All-Star Weekend. He also led the Bucks to the Eastern Conference Finals alongside Sam Cassell and Glenn Robinson, where they lost in a 7-game series to the 76ers. It was a great series. We went at it against Allen Iverson, and they had a great team. That year we played great basketball. They had a lot of talent on that Milwaukee Bucks team.
Here's Ray Allen, another three!
You look back, and it would change the course of my career if we had won that year. Midway through the 2002-2003 season, Allen was dealt to the Seattle Supersonics in exchange for Gary Payton. Check this out. New Jersey, same old Ray.
Ray Allen going deep for the win.
Talk about your time in Seattle and what you remember most.
It was great because, I inherited a young team, guys that, I enjoyed playing basketball in Seattle. And it taught me how to be a better leader moving forward because I had a lot of older players in Milwaukee. It did help me round out who I was as a player.
And that's where your friendship with Rashard Lewis, your current Heat teammate, began.
Yeah, and he was a young player, and the one thing about him was he was still trying to find his way. And when I came, I could sense his gravitation towards me to where he can help himself get better, and he did that. He made himself an all-star.
When I took that next level of being a consistent three-point shooter and a jump shooter was when Ray Allen came to the team. You know, you kind of watch him, the way he carries himself on and off the court, and the way he talked to the young guys, he really did help. He was a real true leader.
During his 5-year tenure with the Supersonics, Allen achieved many individual accomplishments. He became the 97th player in NBA history to score 15,000 points. And on April 7, 2006, Allen moved into second place on the NBA's list of all-time three-point shooters, trailing only Reggie Miller.
Here's Allen for second all-time in the NBA in 3 points scored.
After a dozen seasons in the NBA, Ray Allen had become one of the premier shooters, and his name was finding its way into the record books.